Daniel, thank you so much for joining me today.
Thanks for having me.
I want to ask you about the article that you wrote in the Washington Post this week. You talk about teachers' pay. Why do you think teachers should be paid at a minimum 100K?
Well, we're doing this one-year column at the Post that we call "Why Not," where we're proposing ideas that are kind of outside the boundaries of what we often talk about, not left or right, but just bigger and better. And this is one of them. What you see here with teachers are a few things. Number one is that public school teachers get less, a lot less, almost 25% less than any college educated professional. And so if we really actually want quality education, we have to treat teachers like professionals. What's more, there's a huge amount of evidence that the single most important factor in student learning is a quality teacher. Class size doesn't matter that much, curriculum matters less than we think, but a quality teacher matters in a kid's life literally forever. It can have an effect on their earnings 10 years, 20 years later. And so what I wanted to do was say, listen, if we're really serious about valuing teachers, let's treat them like professionals and let's pay them $100,000 a year, a massive pay increase with some strings attached, but a massive pay increase.
And if all those things are true, teachers are extremely important. Why aren't they paid more?
I mean, it's a great question, and I don't think we know from research exactly why that is. I think that one factor is that the teaching profession, even today, but certainly 20 years ago, or 50 years ago, 60 years ago, was predominantly comprised of women. Right now, the teaching profession is 70% women, and so there was a time when an educated woman often had two career options: nurse or teacher. Now that's changed, but we have a legacy of that. So I think that's one reason. The other thing is that if you want to pay teachers well, you got to pay some taxes. And a lot of people don't like paying. A lot of people don't like. They like someone else to pay the taxes, but they don't actually want to pay. They don't actually want to pay taxes. And implementing this, when I ran the numbers, is extraordinarily expensive. It's a very expensive proposition.
How would you go about implementing this?
Well, I mean, I don't think that the federal government should pay all of it. And there are many things to be worked out here. There's cost of living. So there are certain districts in America where teachers are getting paid about that much because the cost of living is so high. There are other places where the cost of living is so low that $100,000 is probably too much. But let's say that we want to pay teachers extremely well as anybody else. I don't think the federal government should be fully responsible for that. So I think one way to do that would be some kind of a matching program where the federal government offers up, half if the states or localities offer up half to get that boost from the average teacher salary, which is about $66,000, all the way up to $100,000. But it's a very, very expensive proposition. It's north of $100 billion with a B, $100 billion. So that's about 40% of the U.S. Weapons budget. It is significant. If the federal government just offers up half, that's about even more than we pay in farm subsidies. So it's a pricey proposition, and it requires. I just want to say it again. It almost certainly requires raising taxes, and so we just have to ask ourselves what we're willing to pay for it. And also, just one more thing, this proposal, such as it is, comes with some strings attached. Number one, longer school year. Professionals work year round. Teachers should work year round. This 9-month school year is a relic. I mean, you do not have kids. I live here in Washington, D.C. There are very few kids in my neighborhood who are tending the soybean crop and preparing for harvest during the summers, right? So school should be year round. And the other thing is that right now it's very difficult to get rid of underperforming teachers. Very difficult. And there needs to be greater accountability. And so I think that this is a bargain. If one way that we treat professionals, we pay them very well, but we also hold them to higher standards. And so maybe this proposal will be a catalyst for people to think harder, deeper, and bigger about this issue.
Definitely plenty of hot takes in there. With all that said, how optimistic are you that teachers' pay will increase in the next couple of years?
I'm actually reasonably optimistic about that because we see some evidence of it. Tennessee, which is a state that has a overwhelmingly, basically a veto-proof Republican majority in both houses, and a Republican senator raised teacher pay. And then meanwhile, on the federal side, Bernie Sanders, who is essentially the opposite of a Tennessee Republican, proposed raising teacher pay. And so, so I think this idea it has bipartisan support, and it also has bipartisan disdain. And I think that's the mark of a strong idea. The conservatives are going to dislike the proposal to raise taxes. Liberals are going to dislike weakening job protections for public employees. So if you can make both sides mad, I think you can make everyone happy.
That's a good point. And within the past 6 years, homeschooling has gone up by some marks 51%. How do you think that ties into your argument?
I'm not sure. It's a really interesting question. Homeschooling is a very interesting phenomenon because it's in some level two phenomena. One of them are people who are homeschooling for religious reasons because they want to take their kids out of a secular school setting and put them in a school setting steeped more in religion. But you also have a large number of what are called unschoolers, where people are saying that the school system is too rigid, that the school system doesn't allow enough creativity and autonomy on the part of kids. So I think what it suggests is that the system of educating our kids that we've had for many, many years isn't quite right, and people are looking for solutions. And I think homeschooling is one of those. I think charter schools are one of those. And I think that these proposals to pay teachers more, but radically more. We're not talking about a 5% pay raise. We're talking about paying teachers the way we pay accountants and actuaries and engineers. And so it suggests to me, all these phenomena together, that there's a dissatisfaction out there, and it's a dissatisfaction not coming from either the left or the right. It's a dissatisfaction coming from parents who are concerned about their kids.